So I've now cut down my nose to what looks like a reasonable size. So I'm going to put that there along with my ears. So I have 2 ears and a nose that will go in the middle. And other features that I might want to add are making a mouth. So you will need to decide, use another piece. I'm actually using a spare piece from the nose. I'm going to make just a basic strip for the lips. Now, I think my person may have a closed mouth. You may want an open mouth. So you might need 2 lips. So I'm just making a basic shape here. Okay. And that can go there. So this is very, very simple, but I'm going to start sticking some of those features on now. So first I'm going to start with the nose. So I'm going to look at the nose area. I'm going to rough it with my tool. I'm going to rough the nose with my tool. I've now found a paintbrush. I'm just going to dab some of the slip onto the nose and onto the area that's going to go, and hopefully put it in place. Again, I need to smooth that very carefully. So make sure that there are no joints showing. Again, we just want to put it on. We can play a little bit with this later, but then we end up with a basic nose shape stuck on. I'm now going to add the ears. So again, I need to mark where the ears will go. Usually the ears, as we've known before, will go between the eye level and the level of the base of the nose. I'm just using that to help me. I'm just going to cut these ears at a slight angle. That. And again, rough the area and add some slip. Again, pressing to make sure everything's joined, and also the back of the ear to make sure that's joined carefully. Later on I can add a bit more detail to the ear if I wish. It's a pretty big ear. Again, I'm going to cut an angle on this piece. Rough the surface. Stick that on. Again, making sure that all the joins are there. So a person has ears, big ears, has a nose. So the next thing I want to do is work on the eye area, and I do this by holding this area very carefully and just pressing slightly to make indentations where the eyes will go. I'm now going to make very simple eyeballs, and I will do that again getting a small piece of clay. Tiny ball of clay and cutting that in half. Just having a quick look. We just want the basic ball of eye shape, and we're going to add some skin around it later. So again, roughing the surfaces. Applying slip. Just placing that model, and again here. So we have basic eye shapes, they're sticking out. We're going to work on those a little bit later. So what I can now do, I want to make a little strip of clay, because I want to make the eyelids. Just got a little piece of clay here. I'm dividing it in half and roughing it, adding some slip and roughing to this area, and then I'm going to put that piece of clay over, just overlapping the eye slightly, and I'm going to work it in. As with drawing, don't complete one eye and then work on the other. I'm going to use my other piece here and work that over to become the eyelid that side. Work away from the eye so we leave the eyeball intact. And now we just need to do the same underneath the eyes. Two little pieces. Rough it. Slip. So they end up with an eyelid. So as you can see, what I've decided to do is to make my eyes slightly closed. Now what I can do later, and this is easier to do when the clay is a bit harder, is tidy these areas up. But it's important that we get everything joined to begin with. I'm now going to attach some lips. Bottom lip shaping first. And then add a top lip. Now, as you'll see, everything is very rough at this stage, and I can spend time smoothing things down a little bit later and making more detail. So again, it's very quick, I can do a bit more. Now for hair, again, as with drawing, you could consider drawing hair, making textures on here. But again, think about hair as being a wig that you're sticking on top of the head. So I'm going to rough this part because there's some hair going to go on this part, and I'm going to make a shape using part of my spare clay to start working on the hair. So again, I'm putting a piece on like that. I must remember though that I've roughed this part, I must rough this part. Use plenty of slip and then stick this on, like a clump of hair. I must press it in very, very carefully to make sure there's no air trapped in there. I can then start to create the texture, showing the direction of the hair, either using a fork, like this, or if I want to show more detail, and be more careful, I can use a pointed tool to create that kind of texture. So once you've added some more, you may want to add more, you can now start to think about more details. So for example, again using, I need to smooth this area, I need to tidy up certainly this eye area, and what I'm going to do is put some, I can start to sketch using my pointed tool, the idea of some eyebrows, and probably need to straighten his nose up a little bit. So again, this is the time we're at this stage, and it's usually a bit easier when the clay is harder, to start putting a bit more detail in. So here, working on the ears. I can work on the mouth a little bit more and add more detail. But it needs more hair, but that is the basics of creating your face. This is a little bit crooked, but hopefully I'm going to start to try and create some facial expression.